Well, while everyone is grinding games for the story, or grinding games for the tokens, or grinding games for the other story, we got a whole separate story to celebrate the release of Nila. This one takes us back to Bilgewater. And while it may seem to be just a fun story with Graves and Nila, in actuality there are a lot of references to stories that already happened, and Nila straight up talks about the future of Viego. So now, without further ado, let's take a break from the Star Guardians, and let's have a look at the latest story from the core universe, called An Intimate Evening at Oyster Bill's. Before the story begins, there is a verse from chapter 10 of the Cycle of Ashlash. You will know joy, you will be a hero, and you will pass into legend as all great heroes do. The only price I ask for such treasures is you. Bilgewater isn't particularly known for its cuisine, which makes Oyster Bill's Oyster Bar an interesting conundrum. Located in one of the city's poorer pockets, the establishment gained an impressive reputation over the years, with the entire venture held aloft by local celebrity and proprietor Oyster Bill. Along with the Oysterman's love for seafood and exaggerated stories, he also enjoys renting an extra room above the restaurant to various drifters and vagabonds. One such person being his most recent guest, an ascetic warrior with few belongings and an unceasing ear-to-ear smile, who just kicked Malcolm Graves horizontally through the dining room wall. I didn't even do anything, Graves moans, shifting his toothpick to the other side of his mouth. You want one of the other ones? Senna maybe, or Rango. Your lack of foresight now threatens millions of innocents, Malcolm Graves, replies a cheery-sounding voice in an unfamiliar accent. I have questions about the little present you left on my shores. Viego of Camavor. The voice's owner moves purposefully through the cloud of dust and debris, her liquid whip blade suspended in a glittering arc around her. Each step illuminates the dining restaurant, as brilliant indigos and golds cast strange dancing shadows over everything. Messy black hair frames a thin face and violet eyes, all underlined by an oddly exuberant expression, while at her side rests a glowing sphere held by two hands cast from foreign metal. This is Nila, and Graves has been trying to avoid her for weeks. It hasn't gone well. Nila arrived in Bilgewater seemingly overnight, and her presence immediately raised eyebrows across the city. From her odd habit of reciting various textual passages throughout the day, always while making complicated gestures with her palms, to her strange seven-hand motif armor, forged from pearlescent metal no one recognized. Or her instance that she hailed from Kafkan, even though the last full-blooded Kafkani hadn't stepped foot on Valoran soil in over 700 years. Then she started killing sea serpents, 40, 50, 60 fathoms long. When any ship was threatened, Nila rushed down the docks and soared across the surface of the sea with a wide, calm smile, her wry frame launching itself toward the writhing necks of her foes. As word spread around her, she began to ask the port's grateful sailors if they knew anything about a so-called Order of Sentinels. And that was when Graves started running. Now that Nila found him, she doesn't seem happy. Or rather, she isn't acting happy. She seems disconcertingly cheerful, with her pleasant grin that never breaks, and her demeanor and voice that stays locked in unnatural positivity at all hours of every day. It is this particularity that makes most people unable to read her intentions, besides her pathological need to fight very big things, and that makes conversations with the woman hard to navigate. Don't know nothing about Viego, Graves lies, shifting through the rubble for his gun. I believe it was you who sealed him in Alovedra, am I correct? Nila smiles cheerfully, taking another 2 steps forward. Her legs move in a curious artful pattern, like a coiled snake about to strike. Don't lie, you are man-sized. Killing you would be very easy for me. Not that easy, Graves snorts, new destiny finally in hand. Savoring the moment to turn the tables, he fires 3 rounds directly into Nila's torso, or at least he thinks he does. The bullets seem to move around her, or maybe she moves around them. It's like firing his gun into deep water. A thought Graves finds inexplicably unsettling. Nila's wide smile twitches at the sides of her mouth. Unbeknownst to Graves, she is unable to feel anger or any emotion beyond radiant joyfulness. But she knows she would want to right now, were it possible. She whips the gun out of his hands and knocks it to the far side of the restaurant, before bisecting a metal table next to his head with a brutal second strike of her whip blade. For a brief moment, Graves swears he sees phantasmal blue hands in the air around Nila. But maybe this is his imagination. He's been getting hit in the head a lot lately. An interesting armament, Nila muses. I imagine it works well against lesser opponents. So what does that make you? Seethes Graves. But Nila doesn't answer. Instead, she sheathes her weapon within the sphere, offering a brief recitation under her breath that Graves can't quite make out. My apologies. Based on your fighting style, you are not the sentinel I am looking for. Sweet Tommy Kinch. Ain't you supposed to be some kinda hero? Graves yells, sitting up among wood fragments and twisted metal. I'm a hero too, when viewed in a certain light. So lay off, will ya? Graves exhales. Damn, nice magic though. I gotta respect it. Nila offers another recitation, her hands shifting as she mouths the words beneath her breath, smiling ominously in the dark. Thank you, Malcolm Graves. I gave much to wield it. I would prefer you'd call me Graves. I wouldn't, replies Nila. There is great power in a true name, Malcolm Graves. Remember that. If you say so. Graves looks behind Nila. You folks in the back hear that? Or should we speak up? Right on cue, a voice rings out from the street. We're here for the Serpent Slayer. Nila turns to face half a dozen mercenaries, peeking through the holes she dripped in the wall. Her eyes drift past the men to a massive pale something shifting on the planks behind them, and her heart skips a beat. She is often followed by disgruntled killers, but she hasn't seen one of these before. I am she, Nila replies, her attention fixed on the creature. What do you want exactly? You're losing our bosses a lot of money. Think you can just flood the market with serpent catch? We own those docks and those ships. And as of now, we own you. What is that creature? Nila asks Graves, ignoring the mercenaries. Deep Eater, mutters Graves. They chow down on anchor graves that sink to the seafloor. Gives them a taste for people. Mean and real dumb. So these idiots drag him up and sick him on marks they don't like. Nila's eyes flash with excitement. How big do they get? I don't know, 10, 15 oars? That one looks pretty big. Interesting, she whispers. An enemy of worth. Hey, shouts a mercenary. When I'm talking, you listen or you die. Understand what I'm saying? Yes, I believe I do, replies Nila, dipping her hand into the sphere at her side. I am Nila of the 7th layer. May our battle sing across history. Nila whips her blade outward, its glimmering water forming two sharpened prongs that dance through the air with ghostly radiance. Whatever the mercenaries were expecting, it wasn't this, and they muttered nervously as the weapon shifts and expands. They don't know it, but none of them will leave this encounter alive. The 7th layer is not simply a title, but a mythical order, steeled to face opponents of unimaginable power and scale. Self-trained killers are merely pebbles on the road to a true challenge. And tonight, this so-called Deep Eater is the only foe of worth. A massive isopod with sticky flesh-colored plates, and a mean-looking maw of bloody teeth. From the depths of Nila's being, a hungry joy begins to swell. What happens next is a blur. Nila bounds across the room with frightening speed, cutting through her unassuming opponents while wearing the same cheerful, unmoving smile. Each strike of her blade connects with the force of a towering ocean wave. Yet, the dancing water is sharp as polished stone. Nila glides between blows, beautiful and deadly, as her enemies are blasted apart. In seconds, all that's left is the Deep Eater, Considering that the world's 10 oars had suggested a beast of much larger proportions, this isn't too bad. About the size of a covered wagon. Not the most exciting opponent Nila ever faced, but here in Bilgewater, it was something that would get people talking. They would remember this victory, and that was all that mattered. Nila leaps onto its back, her formless blade flicking in the night air. "Beasts of the deep, may you find joy!" she sings as she slices the monster clean in half. The story then cuts to a conversation after the battle. "So, what exactly are you looking for the Sentinels for?" asks Graves, consigned to either having this conversation or being cut into little pieces. "We disbanded, mostly. And I pawned all my stuff, so you're not getting those magic rocks or whatever." "Viego of Camavor will free himself someday," Nila replies, her smile now kind, friendly even. "The magic binding him is Hylian, and it is weakening over time. My people are in an unimaginable danger." "Hey, we beat him once," replies Graves. "He's strong, but we can probably do it again." "He is not the true threat, Malcolm Graves," says Nila. "His ruinations write new magic into the world, an act that drives demonkind berserk, enough to stir their primeval forebears. 10 lords long forgotten," she continues, tapping on the sphere at her side, "who must never be allowed to wake." "Demons, huh?" says Graves. "You're not a demon, are ya?" "No," Nila laughs. "Not entirely." The ascetic performs another hand gesture, reciting something under her breath. As she speaks, Graves gazes at her sphere of prismatic liquid, which seems to draw him in. An unconscious smile curls at the edge of his lips as high-pitched whispering laughter rings in his ears. It seems like the metal hands are almost offering it up to him. "Don't look too closely," Nila warns, and Graves snaps back to attention. "The beast is always hungry." Nila claps her hands to her hips. "Ah, but the hour is late, and I fear you have no further answers to give me. I will retire to my room," she says matter-of-factly, walking past a confused Graves as she circles the damaged dining room and climbs the restaurant stairwell. "If you encounter any monstrosities of note, come find me so I can slay them. If you encounter Oyster Bill, tell him I apologize for tonight's damage. It is good to meet a fellow hero, Malcolm Graves." A door closes upstairs, and the woman is gone. Graves flicks his broken toothpick to the ground, bitten through in all the excitement. He reaches for a replacement but finds none, so instead gazes quietly out onto the street, where 6 dead bodies and 2 halves of a giant marine louse are scattered. "The Sentinels ruined my life," he says to no one in particular. Neat lady though. And that was the intimate evening at Oyster Bill's. Even though not much has happened in the story, there were a lot of Easter eggs hidden here. So quickly, let's go through all of it. First of all, at the very beginning and at the very end, you can notice that Graves has a toothpick in his mouth. That is an obvious joke on his cigar. He is indeed trying to quit smoking. Throughout the story, it is then mentioned that, yeah, while Nila is cheerful all the time, she is still aware of when she is supposed to be feeling something else. The story mentioned that she wanted to be angry at the Graves shooting at her, but she simply couldn't. So she has not forgotten all the other emotions. It is then revealed that Viego is sealed in Alovadra. This is likely a sub-region of Camavor. I wouldn't be surprised if it appeared in the Ruination novel. Then Nila mentions that there is a great power in true name, and that's why she calls him Malcolm Graves. What she is referencing is that if one knows the true name of a demon, they can control it. This was originally revealed by Yone, but it reappeared during the storyline of the Ruined King game. So yes, knowing the true name of a demon is very important for defeating it. Then the Deep Eater appeared, which chowed down on Anchor Graves. First of all, Anchor Graves is how people get buried in Bilgewater, but also the Deep Eater is from Legends of Runeterra. It is then revealed that Nila doesn't really see Viego as a threat, But he did indeed leave his ruination all over the world when he got banished. And apparently those remnants of the ruination that are scattered around are making the demons go berserk. As an example, we know that during the ruination, Hecarim attacked Demacia. And when Viego was banished and the mist was siphoned out, apparently Hecarim remained in Demacia. So he is still there now, somewhere in a small pocket of black mist. This is what happened after the ruination. And that is an issue to Nila, because apparently the ruination can wake up the demons. And Nila is aware of the fact that the 10 primal demons are really powerful. And she also kinda reveals that all of them are banished and sleeping somewhere. So I'm not sure what's happening with Fiddlesticks. Maybe Fiddlesticks is just a portion of the big primal demon of fear. And finally, near the beginning it was confirmed that Nila wasn't looking for Graves, she was looking for someone else from the Sentinels. And we can assume it is either Gwen, because Gwen is technically the one who banished Viego, or Senna, because Senna absorbed a portion of Viego's mist. At least, that's kinda what happened in the cinematic. And connected to this, Nila confirmed that Viego will return, because he is bound by Hylian magic. And by this, she is referencing Hylia, which is the capital of the Blessed Isles. We know that Gwen used the Hallowed Mist to bind Viego, but the Hallowed Mist originated from the Vasani, who researched the Pale Mist on the Blessed Isles. So apparently, magic from the Blessed Isles will weaken when they are trying to hold back someone from Gamavor. So long story short, Viego is coming back. Overall, I really like how this story revealed quite a lot in not a lot of time at all. I like all the references to Sentinels, and even though Nila's design is kind of fine, literally everything that is around Nila is amazing. From her character to her voice lines to her story. Nila is pretty good. And what I believe she did in this story is quite simple. She confirmed that we'll see Viego again in 6 years. Because that's when Riot can put him in their MMO.